In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast, me and my co-host Richard Stayman, we are going to discuss wings. There are plenty of wings in this draft, but which wings could outperform their draft position and where they are projected to go? So stay tuned to find out Richard's thoughts on what wings could pop in the 2023 NBA Draft. Stay tuned. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast your first listen of the day. And this episode is brought to you by Birddogs. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA. When you enter the promo code LockedOnNBA, they'll throw in a free custom Birddogs Yeti style tumbler with every order. I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, the director of scouting for NBA Big Board and the founder of NBA Draft Junkies. And my co-host, Mr. Mavs Draft, Richard Stayman, got a new setup. What's going on, man? How's life?
It's different. Yeah, I moved in with my girlfriend, so it's no longer just the curtain and the little basketball behind me. It's I'm a changed man.
You got to get the man cave. You got the man cave coming.
It's we moved in 3 days ago, so not yet. Soon we'll see how much I can get away with.
Oh yeah, you got it. You don't have full say so now. I understand, man. I'm exhausted. This is my fourth podcast in the last 4 hours, so I'm gonna fight through this. I feel like a prospect going through the pre-draft training, and I'm worn out, but I got to fight through it. All right, let's talk about these wings. This is a class that has a lot of wings, and I feel like with all the wings in this draft, I mean, there's teams want wings. I mean, that's a need that almost every team has. I think that it's going to be hit or miss. I mean, it's hit or miss in every draft. But I think with this draft, there's going to be some guys that are drafted in the late first round that are going to provide lottery value. And I know people don't like hearing this, but I think there's some guys in the lottery and in the mid first round that are going to they're going to struggle. And so I'm not ready to give like my predictions on who I think is going to struggle, but I want to talk about the guys that are projected like late first round, maybe even second round, that you think could pop and provide top 14 value 5 years from now? Like, what's the first name that comes to mind for you?
I love Sidy Cissoko. I mean, I think he's somebody who people forget he played the entire G League season at 18 years old. He is mature beyond his years because of that, I believe, in terms of just being a professional. I don't know if he's going to go top 20. I think teams may have too many concerns about his jump shot. But you look at somebody who you get him at, he's going to be 19 for the entirety of the regular season outside of, I think, the final 5 games, which if every other year ever is any indication, those games really don't matter. So I think he's somebody that teams are going to really invest in as a young, do-it-all kind of wing forward. He's got to prove the shot consistency. I think it's far and away his biggest issue. But he's somebody who I have in my top 20, but in mocks, I have a hard time seeing him being picked in the top 25, really top 20 as well.
I had someone ask me, what's the difference between Anthony Black and Sidy Cissoko?
I mean, in theory, there's not a lot. I think the big difference is the point guard abilities that Anthony Black has are just better. But if you're looking for a true wing, like if you're scouting them as wings, Sidy has a leg up in a lot of areas. I don't know. Again, though, the playmaking, I think, like while Sidy has flashier playmaking, I think Anthony Black is more practical possession-to-possession playmaking.
I mean, did we really get a chance to see Sidy play as a playmaker with the Ignite?
That's true. That's true. The roster was not built for him. I mean, they really didn't have a roster that was suited for a wing playmaker. Like, that just wasn't him. They didn't have a ton of shooting. Scoot Henderson, I think, could have made it some of that easier. Could have made it more real-world situation, but he missed a lot of time. I think there's some stuff where it's like, okay, you can kind of see why that may not be the case for him, where it's like the context wasn't exactly the friendliest. There may be some hidden talent on that in that regard.
Yeah, I felt like he played a lot of point when he was in Spain last year. He is French. I know somebody likes to correct me and be like, he's you said Spain, but yes, he played in Spain, even though he is French. I do think he has real point guard feel and vision. That's what I projected him as when I watched him a couple of years ago. But that's just a question somebody asked me. I get a bunch of people who are like, all right, you got this guy here, you got this guy there. Explain to me the difference. All right, who is another wing that you think is projected a little bit lower, or not necessarily is projected lower, but you think has a real chance of exceeding his expectations based off of where he's projected?
Right now, this guy's projected in the 30s and 40s, and I can't understand why at this point. We see how much shooting matters, even if you are limited in a lot of other areas, even defensively. If you can shoot the ball at a high level at 6'6 plus and be mostly mistake free, you're gonna pop. And that's Julian Strawther out of Gonzaga. He was somebody who I think I overthought too much. He's a straight line driver, not great at defense, doesn't really create. That doesn't matter. Like at a certain point, it's the same thing. Like there's a dunker role, there's also just a shooter role. And I think when you're those kind of guys, if you're an effective one-dimensional player, so be it. That's fine. He can shoot from unlimited range. He moves very well off ball. He's going to create switches just by movement. Off ball by creating, taking advantage of screens. You're going to make the defense talk, throw him off. There's just so many different elements. I do think he's probably more of a regular season player day one. But somebody picking 20 plus, why not? If you need shooting, like I look at Memphis, what's the reason? What's the rationale for not taking him in the first round? I think he's somebody who could return great just ROI, but it'll probably go second round.
He's a very underrated rebounder, averaged like 6 rebounds per game. Are there any concerns about the lower release on his shot?
Normally, yes. Look, it worked so well in college at just an unreal rate. I think at a minimum, yeah, I might lower him a little bit, but he was like a 40 something percent, I think 40% shooter in college. Look, if he goes down to 38, if that's what really breaks his percentage point from cleanly translating 1-to-1, it goes down to 38, 37%, especially early on. That's a big win.
Now, I know you kind of mentioned a little bit, but what do you think is the main reason why he's not projected higher?
It's literally, I think it's just that he's one-dimensional. But it's interesting because he's young for his class. Like I think he just turned 21 pretty recently. Like he's young. Look, and when he's not entirely one-dimensional, I say that as in like he doesn't create, like he's not somebody who you're going to ask like, hey, can you dribble and ISO a little bit? He's not going to defend. So I think a lot of that gets huge knocks on him, but he also has a good floater if you want him just cutting, and he can cut into the floater very easily. I think things like that matter. So just when you look at his overall off-ball threat, I think sometimes people reduce that by saying, well, he's not good on ball. So therefore, but they're not really related, I don't think, that much.
Yep. All right. Who is the next wing on your list?
Yeah, I'm going to dive somebody that I honestly don't even see this guy on mocks, but I have him 35th on my board. That is Keyontae Johnson. I don't think he's your average 24-year-old in the draft. Yeah, he has some off-court stuff, including the health, and there was a looming charge that teams will have to investigate. That's not for us to talk about. But if you just look at the on-court ability, he is a 6'5", 6'6" wing with a 7-foot wingspan, absolutely explosive first step, really good athleticism. His shot was very good. He shot 40% from three this year. I think he's got versatility on the defensive end. He's a great finisher. I feel like he's one of these other guys that's just a killer off-ball guy. And honestly, even with a lack of necessarily on-ball creation, his first step is going to let him be an effective, just simple driver to the basket as needed. Like out of spot ups, he's going to beat a lot of guys because you have to either worry about the shot or he's going to blow by you, because his first step at his size is just really one of the best, I think, in the entire draft.
Do you think he could play a role similar to what David Roddy played?
They're different players, but like absolutely. Like you look at how Memphis utilized him as this ultra positionless kind of 3 through whatever, or really 2 through 4, I guess, guy. And I think you could absolutely do that for Keyontae. He can play up. I mean, the length helps him a lot. The athleticism. He doesn't need to be a rim protector or anything. He just needs to be able to hold his own on the defensive end. And I think he's shown enough over his years in college basketball to do that.
So here's my question about the shooting. Even though he shot 40% from three this year, and he's at about like 39% from three for his career, it's not on like a real healthy volume of attempts. He averaged like 2.5 attempts per game for his career, with this year being the highest at 3.2. 3.2 is not bad, but are you concerned a little bit about the volume?
A little bit. I think what worries me a little bit more is that he shot 71.5% from the line on a very similar free throw volume. The first, what was that?
For his career.
Like yeah, it was pretty much his career average, which is weird because his 2020, I guess really it's only one season, but the 2019-2020 season, he shot 77% from the line. In the 4 games, I mean, he took 14 free throws before the collapse, but 79%, like if you just lump those two numbers together, like it's a 78% shooter, whereas the 70 free throws from his freshman year weigh a lot. I don't know what to make of it. He's got a weird mixed bag. And like, if you just, this is not that far off from his average, it's just math, but he's got to prove the consistency. I think the free throw percentage might be a concern for some teams.
Yep. Well, the good thing is he's 23, not 24. So
right, I did bad math.
So that's a good thing for him. All right, when we return, we'll talk about a few other wings that you believe could possibly pop or outperform the draft position. But let's talk about winning. And when you're winning and you're trying to put together a championship team, you know it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. Well, it's the same when it comes to your vehicle, because every part needs to fit just right. So next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay's guaranteed fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right, and more importantly, the first time around. So just add your ride to my garage and look for the green check to know how the part will fit, or you will get your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game. And when you shop on eBay Motors, and there are 122 million parts to choose from, you will be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. So get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. And the eBay guaranteed fit is only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only, and exclusions apply. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. And in this episode, me and my guy Richard Stayman, we're talking about wings in this deep wing class. We've discussed Sidy Cissoko, Julian Strawther, and Keyontae Johnson. Who is the next wing on your list that you think can pop?
Yeah, I think Seth Lundy is somebody who he's obviously gaining traction. I think from the combine alone, he got himself draftable. My whole take on him is, I'm blown away by what his combine interview I had with him was, where I got to talk to him, in the combine media availability, where he was saying, like, I asked him, hey, over the years, like, your numbers have fluctuated. You went from good shooter, okay shooter, underwhelming shooter to very good shooter, 40% this year. What did you do to change that? And what was your at work ethic? What was your approach? And he goes, honestly, I made a commitment to my team last March and said, hey, I know or April, whatever it was, he said, we need to be better. Like, in order to be better, it starts with me. My shooting isn't enough. And he was taking too many shots that he missed. And he's like, I have to make more shots for my team to be better. So he told me, he was working in the gym more. He was putting in more effort in that, making sure that shot was falling without sacrificing too much, because the year before he was one of the best defenders in the Big Ten, but his shot wasn't there. So he needed to put it all together. And the way to do that was to just be a dynamic shooter, because he has the touch, but just the consistency when he's tired, things like that, making more effort to have more in-game situations. It really popped to me. So I think the shooting is very real. The free throw percentage has been there the entire career, above 80%. very low turnover rate. The guys who shoot has as much as he does with the volume and success he has with the turnover rate is a very successful list. I highly recommend you going to Bart Torvik and just filtering whatever he has and just cherry picking it a little bit. I think he's a good defender. At the combine, we saw it. He's very comfortable with these reverse layups, inside out finishes where he just kind of starts it on the left. I mean, it's just a reverse layup, I guess, but I think he's got a very underrated package at the rim. And honestly, I feel like his shot chart exemplifies it. On my website, I put on a scouting report, his shot chart almost everywhere is red, which is good for high efficiency. So I feel like he's a low mistake, high volume, high success shooter that can come off the bench and find a role.
Now, are there any concerns that he's a 4-year player with only 1 year over 40% from the floor?
Normally, yes. I think something like that would worry me, but I really think it was something with the context of that team where, I mean, Jalen Pickett coming along, kind of making things, having a full off season with him. I think that really helped him a lot. And also I think this year it was just, I mean, the 3-point percentage was a big part of that. 39% from three his freshman year, 39% from the field. I think he learned how to be a better finisher because every year his 2-point percentage has increased. His 3-point percentage has fluctuated, but the free throw percentage was there. There's some element of, hey, it could be a senior fluke, but again, that ability to finish reverse layups and all that kind of stuff, I think it's real.
All right, who's next?
Yeah, this is somebody who I have absolutely no clue why he doesn't get any more coverage, especially because his teammates, we already talked about one of them, and that's Mojave King of the G League Ignite. I don't understand what I'm missing that nobody, like, I have to search his name on, everywhere I listen to podcasts, I'm on YouTube, and he just doesn't have much on him. And I really feel like if you talk to the people who are with the G League Ignite, they tell you that, like, this kid's a sleeper for no reason. Like, he's in plain sight. He should be more talked about, but for whatever reason, he's not. And I get it. The jump shot consistency, it's not there. But look, 76% from the line. The 3-point shooting wasn't that bad. 32% all around for the year. He has a great motor. He's a good athlete. He's a good rebounder. He can finish with both hands. He's a very good finisher. And I actually think he's one of the better defenders already in the G League this last year. So I think he's an ultra role player that find a spot right away. And also, like, he's just making the jump from the G League. The competition jump will not affect him.
Yeah, averaged 9 points a game in the G League. He had a really good game against I was going to call him. I was torn between saying Wembanyama's team and the Metropolitans, but he had a good game against in the showcase game between Wembanyama and Scoot. I think it was the second game that he played well when Scoot went out. But yeah, I mean, 9 points per game, phenomenal athlete, tested as, I want to say, like second highest in vertical leap behind Julian Phillips. Definitely not getting a lot of buzz. And I think that's the weird thing about the Ignite. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if he's like eligible to go back to the Ignite again on that same contract. I'd have to like do some research. But if he gets, I think at the minimum he gets a 2-way, but it's like he's gonna spend multiple years in the G League, which again is not bad. I mean, he's only 20 years old. But I wonder, like, does he feel like he's the forgotten player on that Ignite squad? Which, I mean, this is kind of like totally going off subject, but I wonder, like, next year's Ignite team has more prospects, I believe, that are like more highly touted, and I wonder, like who's gonna be the odd man out? Like, they have a lot of mouths to feed on next year's Ignite team. With, I mean, they have. I'm just curious to see how it's gonna turn. I don't want to go too far away from the subject. Name another wing that you think is not getting the love that he should get.
Yeah, I really like Landers Nolley. I'm big on him. We got to see him a little bit at his pro day. I think he's somebody who the shot is so real. I mean, in the G League shooting drills, shooting drills, he shot 22 of 25 from three, number one in the entire field. shot lights out at his pro day. The shot is very real. I mean, he shot 42% from three, 75% from the line. The numbers check out. I also think he's got good vision. He's another guy I've watched very thoroughly since Virginia Tech and Memphis. I think he has a lot to answer as to why he kept transferring. I do think that will be held over his head. I've heard that from scouts.
Yep.
But, he wasn't the most efficient at the rim. I just feel like his athleticism, feel for the game, ways to compensate for his finishing like a runner, and then also his off the dribble scoring and just ways to find jump shots is a really high level. I think he sticks because of that.
He just seems like he's been around forever. I mean, my first Landers Nolley report that I wrote, put it like this. I was living in China at the time. So that was like before COVID, which means it was like 2019. It just seems like a long time ago. And I think that was when he was at Virginia Tech. Was that his first school?
Yep.
So he went to Virginia Tech, Memphis. Was it 3 schools or 4?
And then it was Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, yep. All right, when we return, we'll round out some other wings, and maybe we can talk about guys that aren't necessarily wings that we believe that can pop and outperform where they're selected. But I want to talk to you about looking good and feeling good. And the Birddog stretch khaki shorts, they are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. And Birddog shorts do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but fit way better. They fit way better than the regular shorts that are made out of that stiff, restrictive cotton. And Birddog fixed this issue by inventing this cloud knit fabric that looks like khaki, but stretches so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. And they also have this anti-stink, yes, you heard me correct, anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. So you can go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA, enter the promo code LockedOnNBA for a free Yeti style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA for a free Yeti style tumbler. You will not want to wait to take your bird dogs off. We promise you. So again, birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, last segment. Is there anybody else that kind of catches your attention that you feel like they're a little underrated?
Yeah, there's 2 guys. Both of these guys were at the combine. First one I'll start with. I really like Toumani Camara. I feel like I know you like him. He averaged 2 stocks a game. It wasn't both 1, but I mean, it was pretty much very close. He averaged 8.5 rebounds, 14 points a game in a very crowded scoring front court. Just really roster, honestly, at Dayton. Has very long arms and big hands, 7-foot plus wingspan, 10-inch hands. Great frame. The physical tools are there to be a defender. The finishing is there. Jump shot, I think, is going to be his biggest swing skill, but look, when you're that size, you get a lot more leeway. And I think for him, he's somebody who, if he gets to the right team, I really do think he will pop. And he's right now a 2nd-round prospect. I think and honestly, a lot of places, I don't even see him on mocks. I think he should be on every mock right now, even if it's just the end of the draft. He's somebody who I feel like teams should absolutely take a chance on. I'm curious what you think, because I know I saw you interviewing him at the combine.
Yeah, man, that's my guy, man. I had just met him at the combine, so I guess I can't say that's my guy. Like, we broke bread together, we go way back. But I had to interview him multiple times at the combine because the whole memory card issue, and then I think another time we did an interview, we were in the arena, the music was blasting, then the music cut off. So we did like 3 different interviews, but we stayed in touch. We actually went to dinner like the last night of the combine because he was one of the few players that was done with all. I guess he did all his medical stuff at Portsmouth, I believe, and he did a lot of interviews at Portsmouth. So he didn't really have any interviews like most of the other guys. So we ended up going to dinner. I introduced him to Giordano's, that huge thick pizza in Chicago. So I'm definitely rooting for him. Great guy. I did speak with one team, and they were like, "We need a guy like that on our team." a guy that we think can defend out on the perimeter. That's also can play the four and is tough enough to rebound. And then they just talked about his shot. And I'll be honest, I felt like he had the best pro day that I've seen. One, because it was an individual pro day, which is definitely tougher because it's like 30 minutes on the clock. It's one guy, everybody's watching. But I thought he showed a really nice blend of like athleticism and outside shooting and showed some ball handling. But he shot the ball really, really well at his pro day. And I actually went to like his pre-pro day practice. They give the guys like a walkthrough where they can get a feel for the arena, the lights, and so on. And he shot the ball like so well that like the joke was, hey man, you got to save some for the next day. And he went out and like I said, he shot the ball extremely well. I want to say like at one point he may have made like nine or 10 threes in a row from the corner. And then from I have a friend of mine, he calls it the nipple. It's the part in the NBA three where there's like the sharp corner before it arcs. So I've always called it the nipple, but it was like the slot, I guess, basically. And he shot the ball well at the slot. Again, athleticism. I think I don't know if I posted it. I guess I didn't. I think I posted it on Twitter, but I do have like his full NBA Combine workout video. And again, I thought it was really good. And I think he's going to interview well. He's a mature guy. Came to the States at 16, from a different country. So I think there's a different level of maturity there. So I think that, I think at the very minimum, he's going to get like a two-way deal at the very minimum. But I also feel like he's one of the guys that may have benefited from all the guys that chose to go back to school. And I think that may have helped him out. Is there another player that you think that's not getting enough love?
One last one. This is a guy who climbed the ranks from Portsmouth to the G League Elite Camp to the NBA Combine, and that's Hunter Tyson out of Clemson. Very quick shooter, pretty successful. Had some on and off stuff, success shooting the ball the last 3 years, but the free throw percentage has been insanely high, 6'8". Also only had 97 turnovers through 5 years. His worst turnover season was this year and last at 1.0. So he is just insanely mistake-free. He shoots and he shoots. He is about as one-dimensional as it gets. But, hey, if you're quick on movement shots at 6'8" and you can set your feet quick, that does not matter. Like, what you do away from shooting the ball, if you're that good, it does not matter. So I really like him as somebody who you look at, you could take him 57th, and I think he immediately outplays that value like through 5 games.
And not only that, he's a good rebounder, about 9 rebounds per game, but he has a very, very, very unique path compared to most prospects. We're talking about a guy that averaged like 1 point per game as a freshman. Like, you don't find guys that go from 1 point per game to the NBA draft. I mean, it was a slow, gradual progression every year. And I mean, he's a 5th-year guy, but I mean, he's gotten better every year, and that's what you like. I think he could end up being like this guy that, like every year, like a team like Boston, they have this guy that's like their 15th man, and then he comes in when they have some injuries and wins games. I mean, I could see him as a guy that goes to like a very good team, a team that's like a contender, makes the back end of their roster. And then when he has his moment, he capitalizes and knocks down open shots. So that's a good call right there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think he's somebody also underrated finisher, just purely off ball guy. And those you can't get enough of those in the NBA.
Yeah. Well, that wraps up this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast. Once again, it's Rafael Barlowe with my co-host Richard Stayman. We talked about some wings that we think could exceed expectations. And Richard gave a great group of guys. And Hunter Tyson is the one that I'm surprised by, but I'm more surprised that I missed out on that. Like, that was not a name that came to mind. And yeah, I mean, now that I think about it, he's someone that I think, like I said, could crack the back end of a rotation on a good team and maybe come in and win a game or two. Well, that wraps up this episode, and we are